There's a lot of conversation about artificial intelligence, obviously. I don't even need to say that out loud. Everybody's talking about AI, and they have been for years. Everybody's also questioning how AI is going to impact the real estate industry. And I'll tell you what, we've got an incredible interview for you today that is exactly on this topic. We're bringing in Justin Lundy, who's the founder and CEO of Lundy Incorporated. You may be familiar with Finding Homes by Lundy, but the Lundy suite of services has actually evolved over the last few years, and I'm so excited for you guys to hear about how AI usage in our space is changing right before our eyes, and with a friend of the multiple listing service in Lundy Incorporated. I'm Alex Gehring. This is Kansas City Real Talk. I am here with Justin Lundy, the founder and CEO of Lundy Inc. Justin, welcome to Kansas City Real Talk, and thank you for being here today for Recharge. Justin, I've been familiar with your product, your original product, for some time, but our members might not be. So tell us a little bit about Lundy, its origin story, and how it serves the members of the real estate community.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me, and it's nice to be in Kansas City. I'm glad it's going to be warmer today. I was a realtor for a number of years, actually, before I started this company. And about 5 years ago, my mother-in-law started to lose her vision, and it started to get really serious. And upon further investigation, they realized she's got what's called RP, or retinitis pigmentosa, which is the peripheral vision starts to slowly vanish until it's gone, right? And so she's going through this. We're going through all the resources available. How's she going to get around? Should she get a dog? Should she get a cane? And digging into it, a lot of it's been solved, right? Being blind isn't, it's nothing new. But when it came to getting online and, doing what we all do so easily every day, which is like surf the web and, get things done for us on our phones and in our apps, there hasn't been a lot of advancements in those fields. So, there's screen reader technology, there's Braille keyboards, and those all work fine, but they're very technical. And she was 80 when she started losing her vision. So learning how to use a screen reader at 80 was just it's a big ask. So, her and I, we have a great relationship. I care about her a lot. And because I was an agent, our thing was she would just text me beautiful properties from all over the country, right? She'd be on Zillow looking at something and then just send it to me. Oh my God, look at this. Can you believe that? Or do you think they'll get this much money for this property? That was our thing. And it just vanished with her vision, right? And so that was kind of the small, problem that I wanted to solve for her. She had an Alexa device. She's comfortable talking to it. This was before large language models came out of the lab, right? So Alexa was the smartest thing we had back then.
Which is crazy.
I know. That was not that long ago.
And Alexa back then is still better than Siri today, which is crazy too.
Yes. Yeah. I started looking at that thing and I started wondering if I could give her search back, right? Because she loved it so much. So again, pre-LLMs, we were hard coding and manually building NLP, or natural language processing, to the point where we spent months with a listing data feed trying to make it conversational. And we did. We finally, both through feedback from the blind community, because we did partner with the National Federation of the Blind, we learned from them, how to present the data in a meaningful way and how to make this conversation something they could actually use. We also learned that my mother-in-law wasn't an isolated incident, right? She wasn't the only one that lost her vision later in life that could no longer use the internet. It turns out that a majority of the blind do in fact lose their vision later in life. And this was like a huge overlooked problem, not just search, not just property search, but all, internet. And so we realized accidentally that this problem existed. We built Finding Homes for a very selfish reason, and then went to my MLS to try to get data for it without paying for the data. And my MLS was like, I think you're thinking about this wrong. We need this solution. So what do you charge for it? And I literally was like, let me call you back. Like, wait a minute, I could sell this thing, right? So they helped me see that I actually, in fact, created a solution for multiple problems. And Heartland actually was one of the first, and that's where we met, right?
Yes.
I brought Finding Homes to the Zoom board meeting, and I'm sure you guys, it didn't take long to decide, right? Because it's a massive problem, and when I say massive, I don't mean that it affects a lot of people, because the reality is not that many people are blind, but it's massive in the terms that, like, those that it does affect, it goes deep, right? If it does affect you, it affects your whole life. And so, finding MLSs early on that were like Heartland, that saw, holy cow, there's a problem that we didn't even know about, and this solution exists, and then accepted it, right, and adopted it. That was really great for not just the blind community, but for me as a brand new technology provider, right? Because without that adoption, we don't exist today. So that's how it all started, and then large language models hit the scene, and it was like everything we worked so hard to do just overnight got way easier and way better. And right. I, as a voice guy, I've been saying for years, this is not the next level of compute, it's the final one, right? Once you can talk to your technology, there is no, what's the next device or what's the next app. It's, this is it. And so I have now learned that's not correct. They're going to implant chips in our head, and we'll be able to think about things, and it'll happen. So that'll be the final, I think. But
no,
it's happening.
I know it's happening.
Yeah.
I follow Elon. I know what he's doing. Anyway.
So LLMs hit the scene. We immediately swapped out Alexa's brain for a large language model, and not only did it get better, but everything was unlocked. Like we no longer had to give Alexa the amount of bedrooms or bathrooms that we wanted. We could say, I've got a wife and 3 kids, and it knew based on that what size home was most appropriate for me. Right? Like it became a real assistant that understood me and all my needs. And then the vision models came out, right? And we could start pulling in all the images and analyzing it with AI. And so when somebody that's blind says, what does this kitchen look like? The answer to that's not in the data. I don't care how many MLS fields you fill out.
You're right.
That answer's not there. So, but it is in the images. So now, Alexa can look at that kitchen and perfectly explain it to somebody that can't see it. And so, these advancements, they helped us so much in this product. And then because we were so familiar with them, just integrating them into our systems, we were able to start looking at other problems that existed in the industry and applying similar techniques to solve those, right? We've got our Navigator product, which you guys have also adopted. I didn't even think to build that one. I was at dinner with an association executive, and they were like, you have to solve this problem. We get sometimes 1,000 calls a day, same questions over and over and over again. But then every now and then there's one that's like, who's got the answer to this, right? And they've got to go look through thousands of PDF pages, right, or Control F. Nope, it's not in that one, not in this one. Please hold, go to Slack. Who knows the answer to this? And he's like, you got to solve this. So, and this was very early in the LLM life cycle. So RAG was still new. Like nobody really understood, that you could drop all of this into a large language model and easily query against, these big, whatever
files or anything
else, handbooks, documents. So we built Navigator to solve that very specific problem. I'm support staff. I get a question that comes in. I don't know the answer. I don't want to go look through all these documents to find the answer, but I also don't want to ask GPT because he'll make some stuff up, right? Or it will make some stuff up. And so Navigator was initially built for that. We were very intentional on making it a support staff augmentation, not something that the members can just call and go around support. Because you got to make sure it works, right? Before you just throw it out to all your members. And B, we do think there's a really important role for humans, right? In this loop where, yes, we probably could just make Navigator member facing and you could say goodbye to entire call centers. Yes, we probably could do that. But I was an agent and I know there's some wacky situational things that happen that if I threw into AI, no matter how smart it is, it'll give me an answer, but it's not going to be the right answer, right? We need humans that have experience in the nuances and the fringe and the edge cases. So we just really wanted to give the support staff superpowers. So that's what it started as. MLSs took it and made it their own thing. They, instead of just support documents, they started to throw all of like the user manuals for the tools that they provide. And then they started to throw all their vendor agreements. And then they started to throw all of their board meeting minutes, right? Like everything that lives in a file, they were throwing in and then like building different knowledge bases. So if it's a board meeting and somebody on the board's like, well, didn't we change that rule 5 years ago? They can just ask Navigator, well, hold on, let's find out. Hey, this is what we're talking about. Has this ever changed? And it will, in an instant, find, you know what, 5 years ago, you guys were talking about this. You voted, it didn't go through, right? Where you would have had to stop that meeting and go, I don't know, comb through a bunch of PDFs and meeting minutes for, anyways. So it became something else entirely. Like it morphed into whatever an MLS or association needed it to be. And it was really incredible because that thing scaled faster than finding homes did across the country. Yeah. Like the industry desperately needed a solution to this problem or whatever problem they specifically had. And then inevitably everybody asked to make it member facing, right? Can we just give the members a chat interface, or could the members call Navigator and talk to it or text Navigator? And we just do what we're told. So we did make it member facing. We do have stipulations and, you can't launch Navigator and make it member facing day one. Your support staff has to be the red team test, right? They have to go in. You don't even have everything documented, right? That your member may ask. So for the first, however long it takes, every single support ticket, every single call has to run through the Navigator, even if you know the answer as a support person. Run it through anyway, because the way we built the database, if the answer isn't supported in a document, it'll just say, I don't have an answer for that. It's not going to answer you for the sake of answering you.
Which is good.
Correct. That was on purpose. And then in the analytics, you can go through and say, okay, this week, what are all the holes in the data? What could you not answer? And it will provide you with the list of every question that it couldn't answer. And then you can go through and create answers for all of those questions and put it into the knowledge base. And I don't care how organized you are, you don't have it all. You don't have it all documented.
Right.
It lives in somebody's head most of the time, right? The person that's been there longest, who's answered the most questions, she's got all the answers, or he. And so it's a exercise in extraction, right? And it future-proofs you. When that person inevitably retires, she doesn't leave with all that industry knowledge that's been documented or extracted and documented, and now Navigator's got it. So that's helping in a number of ways, both on just like relief for that support staff. Mm-hmm. Maybe not so many calls, maybe not so many support tickets because Navigator's catching a lot of them on the front end. It was built in a way to support kind of after hours and weekends, where it'll try to answer. And if you've got something that it can't answer, again, it won't give you an answer that's not true. It'll tell you, I don't know. and then it will create a support ticket for you, so that when Monday morning rolls around and support staff's back, they've got a list of things that came in over the weekend that could not get answered, and they're able to call you back and help you with those problems. And then if it's during business hours, again, Navigator will answer and try to take a crack at answering your question. If it can, great, you can move on. If it can't, it'll just do like a live transfer to a support person with that context, saying, hey, they need help with this. I couldn't help them. Here they are, right?
That's great.
Yeah.
So how long ago did Navigator come to be then?
So that we launched, it was April 2024.
Got it. Okay. So about 24 months ago.
When they gave me that idea.
Got it.
And then we had to build it. So I think it really started rolling out December of 24 when we had figured out A, how to make it work right, and B, what is the message to sell it, right? Because just because you build something doesn't mean anybody's going to know about it or even adopt it.
So around the same time you started working on Nora then. So
yes.
you guys started working on Nora around the same time that you actually launched Navigator. Do I have the timeline right?
Yeah. So we designed her over our team Christmas break.
Okay.
Because we were like, the software's finally here. The LLMs can finally handle multi-platform. So let's build this thing. And then, started to put the pieces together because Nora's an orchestrator. Nora could talk to you, like you could have a conversation with her, but she has no skills. She doesn't know how to add a listing. She doesn't know what your email says. She doesn't know anything. And so it's not until you sign into those integrations that she starts to have these powers. So a lot of it was building Nora with kind of this hub and spoke, like how do we get all of these tools to not overwhelm her, right? And what's the infrastructure of, because the problem with a lot of these AI assistants is both memory, like context, even though it's like, I think the new GPT-5 has over 1 million token context, which is like books.
Right.
But the more you shove into each prompt, the worse and the slower it gets.
And the output can be really bad, and then you have to spend more tokens on corrections.
Right. And so more isn't better. So figuring out how to have all of these functions available, because you're not saying, Nora, my buyers want to see this property. What are the showing instructions? Go into the MLS, check. You're not walking her to the exact tool or product or function. You're just saying, hey, they want to see this property. How do I get in? And she's got to know with all the integrations, like, where do I even look for that property? And then where do I find the showing instructions? So like just the majority of the time was figuring out how to like get her all of the context of everything you're using without overwhelming her to the point where it's just like bad.
Talk to me a little bit about the problem specifically that you were solving with Nora.
So, as an agent, I remember, I worked so hard to pass the test and find the broker who I wanted to work for. And I thought like the hard part was done. But then, he's like, all right, so now you're an agent and now you work for me, but you need to go join the MLS. Right. And I'm like, well, what's that? Well, that's the data center, if you will. And so I joined the MLS and now you need a CRM. And it's like, okay, well, which one do I get? And it doesn't matter. Just get the one you're going to use. I'm like, thanks for that. So now I got an MLS and I got a CRM. Well, now you're going to need to be able to write offers. So you're going to need this transaction management, and you're going to need to know how to fill out these forms. And then you're going to need a custom email that's catchy and people will remember. And it's like, what Lundy's got the keys or whatever.
Is that what yours was?
No,
What was yours? Now we have to know.
Oh, geez. I don't even remember. Not memorable.
Not
obviously.
memorable.
It's probably justin@gmail.com. But anyway, so you got to get your email. You got to get your calendar. You got to be able to communicate. You need to know, where your transactions are. You need some lead gen. You need on and on and on, right? And so on my first day, before I ever even talked to a buyer or seller, my credit card's on fire, right? Because now I've ordered cards and I've got signs and I've got headshots on the way and I've got all of these subscriptions. And as I dug in and finally started getting, people to buy and sell homes with me, and I started using all these tools, it was like, well, these two both use the same real estate data. Why aren't they just sharing it? Right. And this one, it has some of my contact information, but it doesn't talk to my CRM. And I need these two. These two are very important, but again, they're not talking to each other. And when you step back and you look, and it hasn't changed today, even with AI, you've got 12 systems at least, right, that help you solve all the problems of buying and selling homes, but none of them talk to each other. They're all just deeply integrated into their own vertical, and they solve very unique problems. And to this day, I think all of them are necessary, right? And what I thought would happen when AI came along was that like this would be solved. But what you get instead is like, oh, now this CRM, now it's got AI in it.
Yep.
Now you can talk to your CRM, and it's a little more efficient, and it automates these workflows. Okay, cool. And now I've got this AI transaction management platform. I can talk to my forms. I can fill out my forms by voice. That's awesome. Does it talk to the CRM? Well, no. Got it.
So all of the terms of use for all of those different products forbid you from creating. Yeah.
So anyways, they're all just, again, they're going down the same road.
Right.
They're working so hard to solve their own problem, and it's great. They're getting really good. I think they should keep doing that. But it doesn't solve the problem. The problem is I've got 12 systems and none of them talk to each other.
Right.
I as the agent, I work between the problems and the solutions as this like human middleware, right? Where I have got to manually log in to everything individually. And, sometimes I'm copying and pasting data from one system and putting it into the other just to get that output and put it into the third system.
Right.
And it's like, and as a human that can only do so many things, my most valuable resources are my time, my effort, and my money. And if I've maxed out all three, I can't scale. And so you end up hiring a human to run through all those systems for you, right? And so what we saw as the problem, and we finally understood was ready to be solved now that the technology is good enough, was this orchestration layer, right? It's not more AI inside of your tools. It's an AI sitting on top of all of your tools, right? That understands how each one works individually from day one, just through the API, right? All of that documentation's in there. So it knows literally every function that your CRM has, Nora can do. But over time, with this memory layer, she starts to know how you do it.
And she has to do it as you.
Correct. For now, yes. We are working on an external layer where Nora gets her own email address, right? And she can operate as a second user.
As an assistant.
And, for me personally, if I send an email with Nora, one of my rules that I've told her is like, if you're writing and sending emails for me, nothing is sent without confirmation. She'll show me what she's written.
Yeah.
And there's a hard-coded button that I have to click so there's no misinterpretation by the LLM. It's either confirm or cancel, right? But if she's writing and sending an email, even if I've confirmed it, her signature's on there. By the way, I'm an AI assistant, whatever it is. And that's my preference. So anyways, yes, she's working on your behalf with your login, username, logins, all those things. Not that she has those. All those connections are done through OAuth. They're not.
Sure.
She doesn't know your login. She just gets a token and can operate as you.
But again, because all of these different platforms don't want to connect with one another, that's one of the reasons why she has to be operating as a user for each of these. I think people might interpret it as though she gets to tie into each of these different systems, and not really. She's operating as a user.
Correct.
In those systems.
Yep.
And that's why it's okay and doesn't violate probably those terms of service agreements.
Right. Yeah, it's not actually tying the systems together. Right. She is going in to your MLS, finding the showing instructions, and then taking those instructions and going into your showing service, right? And scheduling that for you, and then coming out and going into your calendar. So you're right. She's working as a user.
Yeah.
But that's how we had to solve that.
Very interesting. I use a couple of different programs. Descript has the Underlord is what they call it, which is, or maybe it's the Overlord, which it's one of the two, which is totally creepy. I don't know why they call their agentic service that, but you've got that, and then you've got Replit, and what I find is that I can give the exact same prompt to try to recreate an action that it took, and one day it'll be fine, and then the next day it's having a bad day.
It's got a mind of its own.
It does, and the output ends up being rough, and then I have to pay more or use more compute time or tokens to fix its errors. I think it's a really tricky thing to try to master that. So I think you've got all these big companies that are working on that. What are you doing to make what sounds to me to be more complex, honestly, than what like Descript is doing? Because that's just one thing that it's handling. What are you doing to kind of manage that quote unquote employee, if you will, better than others are?
Yeah. Well, the real answer is how we build each integration. We treat each one as a separate agent, right?
I see.
I'm the agent that can check your email. I'm the agent that can schedule appointments for you. I can add listings. And so one of those agents is also memory, because as we've just discussed, like we can't take this workflow that you normally do, where buyer emails you and says, I want to see this property. And so you say, okay, then go check that. And then I remember next time, if this happens, then I should do that. The more, the way it works right now is just the context window gets bigger and bigger and bigger with every single prompt. And that leads to that issue that you're having with your assistant with a bad day. So we actually built external memory to handle those preferences and workflows. We built it a lot like the human mind works, right? So it's like, this is my semantic memory, and this is my procedural memory, and this is going to be, my what I'm dealing with right now, and this should live a little closer to the conversation, and it's all got to be situational, right? I can't be like, what is that rule? If I tell Nora, if I ask you to schedule an appointment, don't make it longer than 30 minutes, right? That's my rule. She remembers that. I'm never going to say, hey, schedule an appointment and make sure you remember my rule like that. Or what was my rule again? Like, I'll never ask her for that rule. I'm just going to assume that whatever the situation is, if it has to do with me or her scheduling an appointment, she's going to go draw upon that memory to remember that, oh, by the way, I can't make it longer than 30 minutes. So
you hope it works that way. Like in my experience, and again, it doesn't sound like the things that I use are structured in that way, because I'll set rules and I'll even put them inside of the preferences, and it'll mess it up. Right. And then I have to say, remember my rule. And that's almost verbatim what I have to put into the prompt.
It's because it lives in the context.
Yeah.
The context, it's too much.
Once that's broken.
Yeah. And then it's just, do you use GPT for anything, or did you?
I did at one point. I'm more on Gemini and Claude now.
So it's funny because like what got me stuck with GPT is what's probably going to work for Nora as well, which is the memory. Once you spend all this time making that thing know you, you don't want to go train a new one.
It was a hard breakup.
I'm sure, right? Like it's probably necessary.
I won't go into why I broke up with it, but I had to break up with it.
So with GPT, you've got GPTs, right? Custom GPTs. And a lot of people, this is what they're utilizing and calling it an assistant. I built one just for myself. It was just like a health OS thing, right? Where I can track my macros and my workouts, and I'm just a data guy, so like my scale gives me everything, right? And my Whoop gives me everything, and I create this spreadsheet and keep it up to date. And so that, with all of the new context from every day and every way and everything, those custom GPTs last about 4 days before it's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I've just given you my whole week. What do you mean you don't? And it got to the point where it was like, okay, on day 4, I'm going to just have it print everything it remembers for the last 3 days, and then just start new. So, drop this PDF into it so it's up to date, and then keep going. And sometimes I would forget, and on day 5, it would be like, oh God, you don't remember what my workout was Tuesday and what were my numbers. And
it thinks that Tuesday was Wednesday for some inexplicable reason.
Yeah, it's just the context is too full. And this is very, very side note, but I learned that if I say, because it's like, I'm like, hey, give me what were my weights for, Tuesday's workout. And it's giving me Wednesday's workout. I'm like,
it happens on Whoop to me all the time when I'm talking to the AI.
I'm like, this isn't from Tuesday. Give me Tuesday. And they're like, and it's like, well, if you could just tell me what Tuesday's workout was. I'm like,
exactly.
If I have to do that, why am I using you? And I swear to God, the first time I said it, I was like, do this right and do it right now. Give me this data back, or I'm going to Claude. And the whole thing just like started shuddering, and it like started printing out words really slow. And then it gave it to me perfectly. And it was like, I had to threaten it with its enemy.
Isn't that weird?
And then it worked. And I was like,
were you asking about it in the Whoop ecosystem?
No,
or is
no.
it separately?
I was on
so
my
you
custom
take,
GPT.
I gotcha. So
Yeah.
you take your Whoop data and you put it in there separately. So I have the same problem.
Inside
I'm not
of
that
Whoop.
cool inside of Whoop. Yeah. So I just try to use the Whoop AI, and oh my gosh, it gets so confused about the days of the week.
Yeah.
What a weird thing.
Yeah. Anyways, so back to your original question. The context is where all we're putting in the context is what each agent does.
Yeah.
What each external agent does. And then outside of the context, everything else lives in separate memory. So that combination so far, I'm up to I think I'm up to 10 integrations into my Nora. Because I use it for all the tools that I use. I'm not an agent anymore. I build technology, right? So we communicate through Slack, and we report our bugs in Asana, and we, email and calendar and all the things. So I just tied mine into that, and now I tell her, what I need. And we've been working on memory for probably a month now, not a long time. And I have had no hallucinations, no issues, remember I told you that rule, 3 weeks ago? None of that.
Yeah.
And I was really around that 4 or 5 day mark is where I was like, okay, this is going to see if this memory system's working or not. And so far it's working perfectly.
That's awesome. All right, I've got one more question. And actually it's going to go back a little bit to Navigator. Okay. To be honest with you, because I am not as involved as I used to be on the board of directors, and also I'm not a staff person. This is all a volunteer gig. I don't think I knew anything about Navigator. And so I'm curious, though, as a broker, and I manage about 190 agents, obviously I've got policies, I've got handbooks, I've got, tons and tons of HR documents that might be even useful for me, in managing staff as well as my independent contractors. I hear all of that, and I wonder, are you opening it up to the brokerage community so that brokers can use a system like that?
Well, so we have been asked. We are not yet giving the broker their own Navigator instance. How we've decided to solve that and design it is through Nora. So in the same way that the MLS can load their policy and rules, the broker will be able to. And so through that Nora integration, I can ask Nora, instead of calling in and maybe talking to a human, maybe talking to a Navigator or texting, I can literally just ask Nora a rule or a question or policy or how to use another tool that you're providing. So we're going to give the broker the ability to load up their own broker-specific policies and rules, in addition to the MLS.
Got it. So it's an additional agent.
Yes.
To use your map. Okay.
Yep. And yeah, that's a great question. We have had especially the large brokerages, right? There's a lot to remember, and my broker had a guy, just a guy on staff who was not recruiting, he was not producing, he was literally texting us agents all day long when we were texting in with our dumb questions.
Yeah.
Hey, how do I do this again? And it's like, for the third time, if you go in here and push this button, it's like that guy was a liability, right? He had to have him, but he was getting nothing in return as far as productivity goes.
Right.
Right. Sure, it's an important position, but it's not.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. It's not a money making.
It can be that way. That's right.
Yes. So yeah, Navigator is something that brokers will be able to utilize.
That's good.
Once Nora comes out.
Now I'm curious, how does Navigator, obviously it's probably, I can think of a couple of things, but I want to make sure I'm thinking about it in the right terms. How does Navigator differ from something like notebook.lm?
Yeah, it's very similar. We did a lot of work on the back end to make it specific to the use cases that we had in front of us, which was, massive support teams in these associations. So we gave them everything they asked for. So it wasn't just drop all the files in here. It's will you go crawl this site because this is where we keep the knowledge base. This is where our FAQs are. Sometimes it's JavaScript, sometimes it's not. So we had to all have all these different kind of crawlers that we built. We update those sometimes, but we don't update this one. So just being able to perfectly fit into the existing workflows. And then there's the organizational level, right? There's permissions. There's which staff gets access to add documents.
Yeah.
Who doesn't, right? Who just is answering questions or using it to answer question, who gets to give feedback. So just kind of the organizational breakdown level.
Enterprise functionality
type
of situation.
And then just, the way we built our analytics is another way it's different. We being a voice company, we started going down the route of usual analytics dashboards, which is like sort by and filter and all the buttons, right? You click, 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 click to filter. We just gave it a microphone and we're like, ask the data whatever you want to know, right? And so you can ask in whatever unique way you want to know what's been going on, and you can ask what question topics have been bubbling up over the last month, and how has that changed from the month before, and however you want to use that. That all is possible when you just stick a mic right into the database. So I would say those are a couple of the differences. It's very similar though.
Yeah, it sounds similar in functionality, but I understand all of the enterprise integrations and permissions. I can see where that would be useful. One of the things that Mark Antoine talked about up on stage and also here in this room was the privacy of data when using LLMs and when using some of these kinds of tools. He brought up an example of Samsung, and I don't remember exactly what it was that was put into ChatGPT, and then it was accessible by people because ChatGPT learned from it. There are companies that are in the real estate industry who are concerned about the idea of an employee uploading sensitive documentation and then having it learn from it. These models can be extremely unpredictable. Have you built in some security and privacy measures into Nora and also into Navigator that helps protect people against some of those security breaches that could happen?
Yeah, we have. I mean, every agreement we've signed since finding homes is like, how do we protect our data?
Of course.
Right. So that, security is at our core, and even on the paid subscriptions, don't put anything sensitive into GPT. Like as a user,
that's right.
That's just generally good practice. We don't use the front door that users use, right? Through our enterprise API agreements. No matter which LLM we're using, and we do use a combination of all of them, they're all better at one thing or the other. Those agreements state that they're not training their models off of the API usage, right? And so we've got to believe them when they say that.
Right.
And so that's all of our actual LLM use runs through the API. And then with Nora, you're connecting her to very sensitive things, right? Your email alone. I mean, I shudder to think about some of my emails that, good or bad, but letting a stranger.
There's confidential things in there.
Yeah, there's a lot in there, right? So, I'm sure you're tracking the OpenClaw thing. They took a lot of shortcuts to get that thing to market, and it wasn't even supposed to be on the market. But one of the solved things with integrations is OAuth, right? So all of our integrations, you sign in using OAuth. We don't get your username and password. We get a token, right? So Nora's not actually able to go do anything without you, A, logging into that thing, and B, you have to give it permission, right? When we integrated with Google, it wasn't like, oh, you're an AI company and, oh, you're going to be good. All right, here's the integration permissions. Like, no, that took months to get through there. We had to go through like a third-party auditor and just checking all these boxes of within security, privacy rights and all of those things. So we're operating by those best practices. And even with Nora's memory, because she gets better over time because she remembers these things, that memory is not training in an LLM.
Right.
We don't use any data to train models. We don't make our tools better by fine-tuning models. We don't do that. We don't think it's worth it, because by the time we get, some open source model off the shelf and spend the time and the money to train it, the commercially available closed units are so much better.
Right.
So we don't do that. And within Nora's memories, you can go in there anytime and delete memories. If you're like, oh, I don't think Nora should remember that, gone, right? You just hit the delete button. You can also add rules and, additional memories if you don't want to have to tell her things that way. So anyways, you're in control as the user. And as soon as you delete your account, all that data goes with it. We're not storing any of that. And so, just kind of already solved best practices.
When you first started with Lundy,
yes,
did you see it evolving to this point? No. I mean, did you see LLMs even coming to be when you first started?
No.
On Lundy?
No. I mean, I remember the day I discovered it. But no, to answer your question, the LLMs were a thing.
Exactly.
I thought Alexa was going to be the future.
Right.
To be honest, I thought Amazon was going to get their together, and Alexa would be this like super assistant. And maybe one day, but it's not there yet. But the LLMs were not on the radar. They were still in a lab somewhere. My CTO is like, in his 50s. He's been building stuff for the internet since it existed. And I remember the day I saw my first tweet of, I think it was like Mark Andreessen posted like a response from GPT. And it was like, oh, what is that thing? And then I saw another one and then another one. And then I went and signed up and I did a little, and I was like, holy cow. I think we should talk to this thing. Like, I think we should replace Alexa's brain with this. I think this solves this thing. And so I sent it to my CTO and I'm like freaking out, right? And we're remote. He's on the East Coast, I'm on the West Coast. So we're on Zoom and I'm like, this is it. And he's like, well, calm down. Like, things like this come around all the time. Nothing really changes everything that much. And I was like, well, they're tricking the shit out of me, I guess, because like, just check it out. And that was probably a Friday, because Monday morning he was like, I've been doing this a long time and I'm happy to say I was wrong. This thing changes everything.
Yeah.
Like, and he's got this even today, and that was years ago now at this point. He's got this new lease on life where it's like, because he's just so excited to work, right? And what you see, on the front end that we're developing and releasing is nothing compared to what we're actually doing. And it's like, we're not just building tools and solutions for agents. We are doing that. But to build those tools, we're building a factory, right? And you're going to start to see this a lot if you haven't already. But it's like, I still only have 3 engineers. And we're producing the work of about 20.
Right.
Right? And they've even given me my own coding assistant.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
because you can't even break it.
I mean, I can, and I do often.
But it's harder to break.
Well, the thing is I can produce things.
Right.
I'm not a coder. I'm not an engineer. I don't know how any of this works. But they set me up on Cursor, and now it's like when I have an idea of a concept or even want to see a new interface, I don't have to disrupt any of their workflows or try to explain what I mean. I just build it.
Yep.
Right there on my local. Now I can see it. I can interact. I can integrate it with my Nora and try it for a few days and realize like that's super annoying. I don't want that. Right. And didn't touch any of their time. Right. Or if it works, I can say, here's the code for that. And then they can they're off and running. And it is like, when I say we're building this factory, it's literally a factory of ideas go in the top and results come out the bottom, right? And so between what we're actually producing and what we're building to produce those things, my CTO just he's got a perma smile, right? Because it's just it's anything he can imagine they can do. And his coding assistant, we bought him this big, the Mac Studio. Yeah. Not the minis, but the big one. And her name's Lola. And he's got her so integrated now to Asana, right? And everything else that we're using. So I can report a bug in Asana and Lola picks it up and fixes it. No humans involved, right? I mean, she'll push up something for an engineer to look at, but
but she doesn't have to on a simple bug.
Before we push anything, a human looks at it, but it used to be they were finding bugs, and now it's just it's less and less and less.
Yeah.
So it's exciting and terrifying, and all the.
It's things. All of the things. Yes. But you know what? Our industry is going to be impacted by it in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see somebody, really working to be a part of that future of the industry. So thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing everything that you did with us and for your time and for being on stage at Recharge. I know that it really means a lot to the members to have this kind of insight and to hear from somebody who's really in the fold and really building things that we're probably going to be using for the next decades to come. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. This was great. It was a fun conversation.